Sherlock Holmes Investigates A Case of Identity, Part 1 by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. "My good friend," said Sherlock Holmes as we sat by the fire in his house at Baker Street, "real life is much stranger than anything we could invent. If we could go out of that window, fly over London and look into houses and see the peculiar things that are happening, we would discover things much more interesting than in books." "I'm not sure," I answered. "The stories in the newspapers are never very interesting. In fact, they are always very boring." "That is because," said Holmes, "newspapers always repeat the official reports of magistrates and police reports. You can be certain that there is nothing as unnatural and strange as what happens in everyday life." "I know," I replied, smiling, "that your cases are always very interesting. But let's look at today's newspaper." I picked up the newspaper. "Now let's look at the first article I find. It's about a husband who was cruel to his wife." "I don't have to read the article," I said, "but I am sure that the man had a girlfriend, that he drank too much, and that he began to hit his wife." "You've chosen a bad example, Watson," said Holmes, "because I've worked on this case. The man, Mr. Dundas, didn't have a girlfriend, and he didn't drink, and he didn't hit her. Instead, at the end of every meal, he took out his false teeth and threw them at his wife. You must admit that nobody could invent such a story." "Do you have any interesting cases now?" I asked. "Well, I am working on 10 or 12 cases, but none of them are interesting. They are important, you understand, without being interesting. I have found that unimportant matters are usually more interesting. If there is a big crime, the motive is generally obvious, so they are generally not very interesting. But I think I will have an interesting case in a few minutes. That's a new client, if I'm not wrong." Holmes was standing at the window and looking down at the dark grey London streets. There was a big woman standing opposite, looking up at our windows. She was moving her hands nervously. It was obvious that she wasn't sure whether to ring Holmes's doorbell or not. Then suddenly she ran across the road and rang it. "I know those symptoms," said Holmes. "When a woman hesitates like that on the pavement, it means that she has a love problem. She wants help, but she thinks that her problem is too delicate to communicate. But when a woman does not hesitate and rings the doorbell hard, it means she was treated very badly. In this case, we can presume that there is a love problem, but that this woman is confused and perplexed and wants an explanation." As Holmes was speaking, the servant announced Miss Mary Sutherland. She was a big woman with a wide, pleasant face. She was wearing a hat with a red feather, a black jacket, a dark brown dress, and grey gloves. She also wore small round gold earrings. Holmes asked her to sit down and then looked at her carefully. He said, "Isn't it difficult for you to type with such bad eyesight?" "It was at first," Miss Sutherland replied, "but now I can type without looking at the keys." Then she looked surprised and frightened when she understood that Holmes already knew so much about her. "How do you know that?" asked Miss Sutherland. "It is my business to know things," said Holmes, laughing. "If I could not see these things, why would people come to me? In any case, I can see the marks of the glasses on your nose and the double line on your wrist where a typist presses against the table." "I have come here," she said, "because I want to know where Mr. Hosmer Angel has gone." "Why did you come here in such a hurry?" asked Holmes. Once again, Miss Sutherland looked very surprised. Holmes then explained that her boots were not the same and that they were not completely buttoned. Yes, I did hurry out of the house because I was angry with Mr. Windybank. That is my father. He didn't want to ask the police about Mr. Angel. He said that nothing bad had happened. This made me angry, so I came here to see you. Your father, said Holmes. He must be your stepfather because his surname is different from yours. Yes, my stepfather. I call him father, although that seems strange to me. You see, he is only 5 years older than me. And is your mother alive? Asked Holmes. Oh yes, mother is alive and well, answered Miss Sutherland. But I was not happy when she married Mr. Windybank so soon after father died. Also, Mr. Windybank is 15 years younger than mother. Father was a plumber and had a good business. And when he died, mother continued the business. But when she married Mr. Windybank, he made her sell it. They got £4,700 for it, but that was much less than its real value. I thought Holmes would not be interested in these unimportant facts. Instead, he was listening with great concentration. Do you live on the money from the business? Asked Holmes. Oh, no, replied Miss Sutherland. I inherited some money from my uncle. I cannot touch it, but with the interest, I receive £100 a year. That should be enough for you to live quite comfortably, said Holmes. I'm sure you travel a little and enjoy spending your money. Oh, no, Mr. Holmes. While I am living at home, I don't want to cause them expense, so I give that money to mother, and I live on the money I make typing, she replied. I understand. Now can you tell us about Mr. Hosmer Angel? Asked Holmes. Miss Sutherland blushed and said, I met him at the plumber's ball. They used to send tickets to my father when he was alive, and after he died, they sent them to my mother. But Mr. Windybank didn't want us to go. He never wanted us to go anywhere. He used to get angry every time I wanted to go out. He said that my father's friends were not good enough for us. But the day of the ball, Mr. Windybank went to France on business, so mother and I went to the ball, and it was there I met Mr. Angel. I suppose, said Holmes, that Mr. Windybank was very angry with you when he discovered that you had gone to the ball. No, not very, replied Miss Sutherland. I remember he laughed and said that it was impossible to stop a woman when she really wanted something. And did you see Mr. Angel after the ball? Asked Holmes. Yes, he came to the house the next day, but after that father came home and so he couldn't come to the house. Father didn't want anybody to come to the house, so Mr. Angel said, We should wait until your father goes to France before we see each other. While he's at home, we can write to each other every day. Were you engaged to Mr. Angel at this time? Asked Holmes. Oh, yes, Mr. Holmes. We were engaged after the first walk that we took. Mr. Angel worked in an office in Leadenhall Street. Which office? That's the worst part. I don't know. Where did he live then? Above his offices. Then where did you send your letters? To the Leadenhall Street post office, where he went to get them. He said to me, The other workers in my office will laugh at me if they see I am receiving letters from a lady. I told him that I could type my letters like he did his, but he said, A typed letter comes from an impersonal machine and not from you. This shows how fond he was of me, Mr. Holmes, and the nice little things he thought of. Yes, said Holmes. I have always said that the little things are the most important. Can you remember any other little things about Mr. Angel? He was a very shy man, Mr. Holmes. He always wanted to walk with me in the evening instead of during the day. He was very gentlemanly. Even his voice was gentle. He told me that he had had a bad infection of the tonsils when he was a child, so he had a weak throat and had to talk very quietly. He always wore elegant clothes. His eyes were weak, just like mine, and he wore dark glasses because the sun hurt his eyes. Well, what happened when Mr. Windibank went back to France? Asked Holmes. Mr. Angel came to the house and said that we should get married before father returned. He was very serious and said, "Put your hand on the Bible and promise me that you will always love me." Mother agreed with him. Mother liked him from the beginning and liked him even more than I did. When they started talking about me and Hosmer getting married that week, I asked them if I should ask father first. They said no, but I did not want to do anything in secret, so I wrote to father at his office in France to inform him. But the letter came back to me on the morning of the wedding. It arrived after he left then. Yes, sir, he had started back to England just before the letter arrived in France. That was unfortunate. Your wedding was planned then for the Friday of that week. Was it going to be in church? Yes, sir, but very quietly. On the day of the wedding, Hosmer came in a hansom to take mother and me to the church. But since there were two of us, mother and I went in the hansom, and Hosmer took a cab. We got to the church first, and when the cab arrived, we waited for him to get out, but he didn't. The cabman said that he could not understand what had happened to him. That was last Friday, and I haven't seen him since. I think that you have been very badly treated, said Holmes. Oh, no, sir. Hosmer was too good and kind to leave me like that. All morning before the wedding, he said to me many times, "If anything happens to me, you must always love me. You must wait for me. I will return to you." I thought this very strange to say on the day of our wedding, but his disappearance explains it. It certainly does, said Holmes. In your opinion, did he know that he was in danger? Yes, I think so. But do you know what the danger was? No, I don't. One more question. How did your mother react? She was angry and told me that I should never speak about him again. And your father? Did you tell him? Yes, he said, "Something terrible has happened to Hosmer, but I think he will return." I agree with my father. Why would Hosmer leave me? Hosmer did not borrow money from me, and I never put the money which I had inherited in his name. So he did not take my money and leave. But what happened? And why hasn't he written? I can't sleep at night because I'm so upset. Then she pulled out a handkerchief and began to cry. I will try to solve your problem, said Holmes, but don't think about it any more. Try and forget about Mr. Angel. Do you think that I will ever see him again? No, I'm afraid not. Then what has happened to him? Leave that with me. Now I need some of Mr. Angel's letters, a good description of him, and also the address of your father's offices. I never had Mr. Angel's address, said Miss Sutherland. But here is Mr. Windibank's address. He works for a wine importer. Here is the advertisement with a description of Hosmer that I put in the newspaper The Chronicle, and here are 4 letters from him. Thank you, said Holmes. Remember my advice. Consider the incident closed and do not allow it to affect your life. You are very kind, Mr. Holmes, said Miss Sutherland as she was leaving, but I will always wait for Hosmer Angel to come back. A Case of Identity, Part 1. Summary. Holmes and Watson discuss how the motives behind minor cases are more interesting than major crimes. Mary Sutherland is Holmes's new client. Her fiancé, Hosmer Angel, is missing. Holmes listens to all the background information and takes on the case.